Hello and welcome back to the channel. Hope you're all well and thank you very much for coming over and joining us for another video. So I'm trying some new paint. We was at a local wholesalers a few weeks ago. Well, it's like a garden centre come wholesalers, um, not far from where we live, and they had this shimmering pearl paint. So I'm hoping it's going to be like a pearl changing paint, so it's got like the colors are changing as you hold it into the light. That's what I'm hoping, but we're not going to know until we try it. It went expensive. It was £2.95 a tin, so I'm not holding my hopes that it's going to be the best paint in the world, but if it gives the effect that I think it's going to give, then I'll be a happy bunny. So what I want to do is just turn the outside or turn a bowl. The outside I'm going to do this to make it a little bit like porcelain, and then I might finish the inside natural. I might color it, I'm not 100% sure yet, but the more interested on the outside and seeing what effects this gives me. So let's go over to the lathe, turn a bowl, and get it coloured and see what it looks like. So I'll meet you guys over at the lathe. So got my blank. First thing we're going to do is find our centre, and we're going to stick a 52mm hole in the bottom with a forcener bit, so we can hold it in our chuck. So we've marked it. Let's get over to the drill press and drill that out. So just get it mounted. It's not very true, but we'll soon sort that out. So first thing we're going to do is flatten the bottom out and get our rough shape that we want. We're going to get it round. Just got a little bit more to go to get it round. Still got that little bit there. So we'll just finish it off. One more pass should be enough. That's better. So we've got a nice round finish now. So we'll find our centre mark. I'm going to put a mortise on this. The reason being is if I don't like it, I can always return it. So 26mm. Right, so I'm going to be using a bowl gouge for this. This thing stretches it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to sand that up to a high finish and then undercoat that so we can get our colour on. So I'm going to sand that from 120 up to 600 grit. So we sand up to 600 grit. So what we're doing now is we're going to sand and seal, ready to take our primer. So we're going to give it a nice generous coat of sand and sealer, so we get it to soak into the timber really well. So the benefit to that is, when we apply our primer, it's not going to soak into the wood. Because if you apply a sprayed primer straight onto wood, it's going to soak in, and you're going to have to use a lot of primer to give you a good base to spray to, and we don't want to do that. So we'll sand and seal, and the sand and seal is going to cause the grain to swell a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're just going to gently rub that back, and you can either rub it back with a Scotch Brite, or you can rub it back with a 400 grit sand pad. So it's nice and dry now. So what we're going to do is we're going to get a Scotch Brite. I'm just going to rub it with a Scotch Brite, and depending on how soft it comes, depending on whether I just sand over a bit of 400. Just de-nibbing it with this, because the grain will rise a little bit when you put your sand and sealer on. Still a little bit high for my liking, so I'm just going to go that gently with a 400 quickly. So you need a nice smooth base coat. If we ain't got a good base coat, then the top coat's not going to show us its best effect. Right, because we're going to be putting a white over the top, we need a white primer. Normally reds, blues, greens and that are grey primers, but because we're going white, we need a white primer. If you put a grey primer, it's going to make it too dark. It's not going to give you the whiteness, it'll make it more a dirty white. So we're going to put a white primer on this. So I'm just using a Halford's white primer. I'm going to give it a couple of light coats to start with. I'm just going to turn the lathe on slowly. Just give it a couple of light coats, and we're going to build that up to build the depth up. Light thin coats dry quicker. I'm just going to get 10-15 minutes to dry off a little bit, and I'm going to give it another couple of coats. You can still see the grain through it. I don't want to see any of that through it. It's just a little bit bumpy. Just going to gently rub that back. So that's for 3 coats. So I'm I'm just going to rub that back a little bit with a 400 grit. Alright, so just going to get one more coat, and then we're going to leave that to dry overnight. So I'm going to leave that to spin for 10 minutes, then I'm going to turn it off and we'll leave that to dry overnight, and then I'll come back tomorrow, just gently sand that back, and we'll be ready to put our top coat over the top of it. So it's 24 hours to dry now. I'm just going to leave that with a 400 grit, just to take any little imperfections out of it. It's nice and smooth now, so what we're going to do is going to give it a coat of this, and we'll see how this actually comes out. So wave on slow. Just going to gradually build up the layers until we get a nice coverage on it. So the camera's not doing that no justice at all. The actual colours are starting to come through. The colours are actually starting to come through. The pearly colours are starting to come through with the first coat. So I think as I'm gradually building it up, it's going to work. So what I'm going to do with the power of magic of camera editing, I'm going to come back to you when it's all done. So there we go, all polished up, all shiny. So let's get out and have a look. So there we go. Whoops. So look at the finish on that. I've not concentrated on this too much because I'm going to turn this out so it's natural timber, because I'm going to put a maker's mark in there. But as you can see, we have that, a nice, smooth, shiny finish. So we're ready to turn the inside. So what we're going to do is just going to turn this out. So we'll take that back to the natural timber. And then we can get the inside turned out. I'm going to churn this out without doing any damage to this, so I'm going to be really, really careful. So the shimmer and pearl is a gloss finish anyway, but what I've done is I'll give it 16 coats of lacquer over the top of that, then I've sanded it back to 2000 grit, so it's actually perfectly smooth. We've got no wood grain in it, because as I sprayed it, the grain sort of expanded, and you can just see the grain effect in it. If you look at it really closely, I don't know if you'll see it in the camera, but obviously when I do the photographs at the end, I'll show you. You can just see but the actual smooth of it is perfectly smooth. So that's what I wanted. I want a glass-like finish, but still seeing the grain for it. So let's get that turned out. Making sure we've got some safety glasses on. Just going to use a skew to turn that out, because, like I said, I want timber in the bottom there, so I can put my maker's mark in. I just think that'll finish it off as well. So let's just get that turned out. So that's turned it back to wood. So what we need to do now is sand it without catching any of this, because we don't want to lose our gloss finish on there. So let's get some sandpaper. Just gently sand that. I'm going to sand it all by hand. I'm going to start from 120 grit. Like I said, I don't want to catch any of this because I want that nice sharp line in there. So sand up to 400. I'm just going to put some sand and sealer on there. Then I'm not putting nothing else on there, because like I said, I'm going to put my maker's mark in there. So we want to make sure we don't get the sand and sealer over our paint, because it will lift the paint, because obviously the paint is cellulose and the thinners in the sand and sealer is exactly the same. So there we go, that's the bottom done. So now we need to flip it and get on with the top. Really like that. Really like that. That pearl shimmer is absolutely stunning. Really nice. Camera really doesn't do it justice. It's so bright and shiny that you just get glare back off of the lights. Really nice. Right, so let's get it turned and oh, wrong way. Get it mounted in our chuck. Get the front finished off. So we're going to do some shear cuts to clean this up. So what I want to do, I want to try and get a real deep blood red for the inside, and then a bit of texture in the bottom with some gold embellishing wax over it, and hopefully that'll contrast against the light white on the outside to give it two depths of, you know, definition. So first color I'm going to put on there is flame red. The reason being is flame red will soak into the grain, and it should give me two different colours to give me that deeper, richer red. So I'm using an airbrush for this. So like I say, the first colour will be flame. I'm going to coat the whole thing in flame, turn the lathe down, turn on the extraction to take any of the overspray out, and just basically a couple of light coats really, just to, and I'm going that way so hopefully I don't get it over my white. So it's just going to make some quick passes over this. So now we're going to put our ruby over the top of that. So our ruby. This should give us a nice dark deep colour. So you can see the light in the dark grain pan. That camera really doesn't do any justice at all. But you can see the light in the dark grain pan in there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put a, I'm going to sand and seal that. Again, we want to make sure we don't get any sand and sealer over our lacquered piece. So we're going to have to be a bit careful. On a couple of coats of sand and sealer on this. To try and seal in that colour. Just got to try and get that edge so we don't get up over our lacquered piece. So I've put my texture in there, but I've got to press record. As always, talking to one person, then they go out, you come back anyway. So anyway, we've done some texture in there with the Robert Sorby mini texturing tool. I then put the inner and outer lines in with the edge of the skew, just to give me a nice neat little line even. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use the Hampshire Sheen in gold embellishing wax, and we're just going to go over that and give the whole piece on the inside a coat of gold embellishing wax, just to enhance the embellishing, I mean the texturing, and also the grain on the inside of our bowl. So we're making sure we work it well into the grain. Drop it on the floor. What this will do is it just enhance our grain of our piece, just to make it shine a little bit, or make it show up a little bit better. So we're just going to let that dry for a few seconds, and then we're going to buff it off with a clean cloth. So you can just, I don't know if you can see it on this camera, but you should be able to just see, that camera's not the best picture at all. Let's change the camera and see if we can get on a different one. So you could lacquer that and just about see the gold embellishing wax in the green. So you could lacquer that, or you could, I'm going to leave that like that because I quite like the look of that, like that. So let's get it out and let's have a look at it. So there we go, all done. Ruby red and flame red, the colours, texturing with the Robert Sorby texturing tool, mini texturing tool that is, and then inner and outer lines with a skew. Sorry I didn't record the texturing, but I had someone come in, I was talking to those, and when I came back, totally forgot that I'd stopped recording until I looked up. And then we covered it with gold embellishing wax. I was actually going to do black, but I'm glad I did do the gold because you can just see the gold shimmering in the grain. So it just finishes it off nicely. Now again, you can go over that with a lacquer to give you a nice shine, but I didn't want to take the shine away from the bottom. And I think if the shine was on the top as well as the bottom, I think it'd be too much. So this is the new paint I wanted to try. This is the main reason for the project. Like I said, I got this from a Cheap Jack shop, which is in our local town. And I just want to try it. It's called Shimmer Pearlized Spray Paint. Really, really pleased how that comes up. And like I said, it comes in like a sheen by what a high gloss. So I gave it 16 coats of clear coat lacquer, then cut it back, was wet and dry up to 2000 grit, and then polished it all out. So it's smooth to the touch, but you can actually just see the grain pattern in it. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but yeah, you can just see the grain pattern in the shimmer of the pearlized paint, but to touch it's perfectly smooth, so you don't feel that grain, but you can see it. I'll get some photographs of it outside, some better pictures of it, cleaned out the middle. I'm going to put my mate's mark in there before I take some photographs. So as always, I'll get some photographs of it. I can't stop touching it, it's lovely and smooth. I'll get some photographs of it and stick them at the end. So thanks for coming over and watching. Hope you've enjoyed. If there's any questions, then obviously leave me a comment. But other than that, thanks for coming over and watching. I'll catch you on the next one. Take care, speak to you soon, and bye for now.